你好，我名係劉俊文. Hi, my name is Randall Trang, and I'm an artist and writer. I mostly work in comics and illustration, but I also am a stuntman and actor for film and television and theater. So I appear in all sorts of different media. A lot of the inspiration for my work on Canto Cutie comes from my background, not only as a Chinese American, but specifically as a Daeju person. I was raised by my parents, who are boat people. They're refugees from the Vietnam War. But I was also raised by my grandmother, who is from Daeju, China, and she was there before the Cultural Revolution. She left because of the Cultural Revolution, because of starvation, famine. She was raised a strict Buddhist, and a lot of my spirituality is through my deep connection to her. She's no longer with us, so my work reflecting my Buddhist upbringing and its spiritual ideas helps me feel more connected to her and my Daeju heritage. You can follow me on Instagram mostly. I'm on Twitter, but not really. I have a handle there that you can follow, but most of my work is going to be on my Instagram and I'm on my Tumblr. My name is Randall Trang, and that is how I go by on all my handles and all my social media. It's Randalltrang.
Hi, I'm Tim Cheng. I'm a poet born and raised in Hong Kong, currently based between London and Edinburgh. I will share a poem with you today. It's called Auto Portrait with Windows. I wrote Auto Portrait with Windows because I stay in quite a lot, and I think it's luxurious to own a window that you could look out from. Auto Portrait with Windows. Windows are thin doors you don't step out of. Windows that catch you with curtains, like lungs, like mosquitoes. Windows magpies can't break in, the blue tails, night made visible. Windows that trap pink feathered turmeric dusk in blinding squares where phantom gold flees. Windows where figures are changing, movements distilled into mists. Windows beheading houseplants, windows that tell you you are not at a party. Pets on windowsills, pets adopting poets, windows smokers smoke by, the street drawing them in. Windows you forget to close, your heater working like a dusty whisper. Windows where you tell friends that you could only sigh when neighbors argue. Windows when they ask if you heard. Windows of saying no. Windows passing the moon to each other. Windows on time space. Winter, night, where you are. Summer, noon, where friends are. Windows saying, take your time, waste it. I wrote Autoportrait with windows because I like to stay in and it's luxurious to own windows that you can look out from. If you want to support me, you could go to my website, timtimchen.com. You can find my writing and my projects on the website. And if you enjoy reading poems about multilingualism, girlhood, or psychogeography, you might want to get my book. It's out with the wonderful Verve Poetry Press. And there are 31 poems in this pamphlet. Some of them are quite fun, some of them are quite sad, and some of them are quite experimental. So you find a bit of everything in this book. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Hi, my name is Clovis Wong. I'm a second generation Chinese American, and my family is from Hong Kong. I'll be sharing a poem I wrote about my gongong and his relationship with gambling at the Happy Valley racetrack. This is the fine line between patience and apathy, or how Gongong felt at Pamade. Hard hats, excited bamboo scaffolding shakes inside boring tunnels. Seismic arteries softly filled with fumes and urban blood. This is how we privatize the commons, franchise, disenfranchise, like a lonely riot. What's wrong with living simply? I never asked for much. All these fathers and brothers keep telling me to do more. But what's wrong with honest work? A pack of cigarettes to burn, an offering for my lungs of those past. There's more to life than peddling watches like a con man selling time. When the bets are in and the horse hooves thunder, my restless heart is eased. I feel the sweat and blood in the horses linked to my melancholic dispositions, more real than life is, filled with dreams, and my life isn't. I don't forget what I am, that is finite, but for a brief moment I am here. Where can you run when your general is pinned? These cannons and elephants were not the freedom I was promised. And this time, though the rules will not save me, I'll stay to play one last time. Still, I'm happy to slowly waste away, watching the skirmishing horses, the chariots chasing sweet taste of victory across the river and win or lose, sit down once more with those wooden warriors, eternally returning back to the start. Thank you. This poem is based on my gongong and his complicated relationship with family and with gambling. My gongong is a bit of a strange person. He wasn't really the best parent or husband, according to what I've heard from my parents and my grandmother. I actually never really had a relationship with my gongong because he passed away from a heart attack when I was still quite young, probably because he was a pack a day smoker and a smoking addict, in addition to his gambling addiction. His relationship with his family was also a bit weird. His family was quite wealthy, but my gongong was kind of a black sheep. He turned down a lot of easy working opportunities that he could have done within the family to stay close to Pamade so he could make it in time to start gambling right after work. So he's kind of this mysterious figure in my imagination because although I have a relationship with my grandmother on that side of the family, I never really got to understand or know my grandfather very well. So I think a lot about him and his life choices. And I kind of project, I think, a little bit of my own experience with playing games and thinking about addiction within my own life. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the inspiration behind this poem. Two motifs that I rely on. Of the first one is the concept of gambling, um, my grandfather's addiction to cigarettes, as well as gambling at the racetrack, but also his interest in Chinese chess and Zhangke. And he actually died watching a game of chess at the park where he had a heart attack, and he died watching uncles playing chess in the park. And I think that's something that he loved to do. That was meaningful to him. So I hope that he died watching an exciting chess match, and I hope that was meaningful to him in its own way. If you're interested in following more of my work, I do post some of my writing on Tumblr. I have a Tumblr blog at www.tumblr.com/splintersfeeling. That's splinters feeling, SPLINTERSFEELINGS. Splinters Feelings, no space. I'm also on Instagram as at Civlock. It's at Civlock, SIVOLOCK. My Instagram presence is not as much my writing as more of my personal and political work, but you're also welcome to follow me there.
Hello, my name is Boon, also known as Phng, and I'll be sharing a 4-page short story comic that I made where I clean up a mess. So what I have here is a 4-page comic that I made where it's essentially me in a mess that I made on my own. I'm not normally a neat or tidy person. I always leave like cleaning to like the last thing that I do. So eventually it will just all build up into a huge mess. Hence the start of the story, and essentially it's just about me learning how to take responsibility on myself and clean up after myself, like a metaphor of like learning how to grow up, basically. So like what led me to create this story was that from the beginning, it was that I recently graduated from university, and following that, I decided to, make a living in the UK, which is away from my family, who all mostly resides in Malaysia. So essentially, it was I, have a lot of doubts or a lot of worries. Not sure what I want to do with my life, or how to or like how to navigate it. And so when making this was more like a letter of encouragement to myself to not be afraid of the choices that I make, and how I go forward with decisions that I make in my life, essentially. And I hope that this encouragement is also like amplified to whoever that reads this story. So you guys can support me by following my Instagram accounts. I have like 3. One of them is Phng Boon, my main account. My comics account is Boon Comics, and my shop account is Boon Illustration and Print, which is boon.illustration.print. And all of them can be found on Instagram. I also am publishing my comics on an online platform called Webtoons. So if any of you are familiar with the Webtoons platform, my story is called Life of Boon, and my username there is Trish Phng. So that would be amazing if you guys could, give all of those like or follow or subscribe. So that would be great. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Yusuf Mohideen. I'm a 4th year HQ student, so I study at the University of Hong Kong. I double major in psychology and neuroscience, and I'm ethnically from South India, but I was born and raised in Hong Kong. So my poem that I submitted to Canto Cutie, it's called Pressed Halves, and I kind of talk about the intergenerational trauma, the generational differences, the kind of issues that you might imagine that a lot of like third culture kids go through when they're encountering generational differences with their parents, a lot of conflict, basically a lot of arguments in your life. And I kind of wanted to channel that in a more poetic sense to kind of highlight these issues so that they're more talked about, so that they're destigmatized and more people can kind of relate to it. Yeah. So the poem I'm going to read is called Pressed Halves. Pressed halves. Rage is sown through our family fabric by hands that prick at its sharpness. Temporal peace in pursuit of anger. Our cups now overflow with salty tears. You were too busy raising your children, you forgot to watch them grow. Dug seeds 6 feet under till our bodies fell in. Reaping, broken ancestral dreams in which we sow. You tear at each other's skin like unloved beasts, a civil war of two pressed halves that make me up. Funny how oceans taste much the same as stoic tears that gave way to gravity's hold-up. I'm bleeding to compensate for tears that have run out. I just need something of this to leave me, please. My head's spinning too fast, but that's okay. Laughing madly till I fall broken on my knees. How much do you love me? You ask. No limit, I say. Remember when those were the familial rituals? It's now a torturous mantra I repeat to myself. Home call looked like a faraway memory of times that I tried to remember and forget at the same time. Its ambiguousness and familiarity became an obstruction against the very thing that kept my heart beating. So I wrote this poem, I think maybe a year ago or two, I'm not sure. But I wrote it because, you know, as like I said before, with intergenerational trauma and being a traumatized child myself, I kind of wanted to have this kind of outlet to express myself and, you know, in a sort of healthy way. So a lot of the things that are mentioned in this poem are not exactly things that I have done, but things that are implicating self-harm or things that are implicating like almost mania in the way that this person or this persona is trying to get this thing out of them. You know, when they're just saying, when I wrote something like I'm bleeding to compensate for tears that have run out, it's almost like me trying to see how it's like to get to that stage of how bad it could be, because a lot of people have been through that. Self-harm is such a big thing, you know, especially within this generation where we feel like there's no other way of kind of getting this like emotional purgation out, you know. So that's kind of what really motivated me to write about this. And what else? And some things are kind of relevant to my parents as well. So that second last paragraph where it says, how much do you love me, you ask, and no limit, I say. So this was actually a real thing. So my parents would actually ask me when I was younger, like, how much do you love us? You know, like in a very cute way. And of course my practiced answer would be, of course there's no limit, you know. And it's kind of like a torturous mantra that I have to repeat to myself to know that my parents do love me and that what they're doing is for my own good. But at times the kind of arguments that we have, the kind of differential thinking, political mindsets are so different that it kind of makes you wonder, like, are they really my parents? Did I come out of them, you know? So yeah, I think that was the motivation, and kind of just writing this to get a sense of community, because I feel like once you kind of express this into a community that can kind of relate to you, they help you in a way as well. Because not a lot of people, I mean, if you're a privileged white heterosexual male living in this, you know, in this patriarchal world, it's very difficult to see issues that are related to intersectionality, issues that relate to race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, when you're not in that position. It's very difficult for someone to empathize to that level. And that's why the most I can do with my poetry is to kind of shed light on my own experiences as well as other people's, and also let them reflect on how they perceive this poem, which is why I called it pressed halves, you know. So the way I imagined pressed halves, the way I wrote it was like take an apple and you know, it's one apple, but I cut myself away from, you know, I cut it into half. So yes, I am my parents in a way, but I'm still different. I'm still a pressed half. I'm still a cut half, and we're trying to press each other together. So that's kind of like the imagery I wanted to set up in people's minds. But obviously this could be according to your own interpretation. Yeah. So lastly, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on at Yusuf and then underscore Mohideen. So that's YUSUF underscore MOHIDEEN. So yeah, I think that's the easiest way to reach out to me, because I'm always on Instagram. I think another way would be through my email, so you can use mohideenyusuf at 26gmail.com. So that's MOHIDEENYUSUF 26 at gmail.com. So yeah, thank you.
Daigaho. My name is Michael Ornido, and my Cantonese name is Yin O, and I'm a full-time Catholic fine artist based in San Francisco, California. I received my formal art training from the School of the Arts in San Francisco and from UC Berkeley. I work in many media, but I specialize in oil painting. So today, I'm going to share my oil painting, Eight Timeless Blessings, which will be in a zine. The Eight Timeless Blessings is a Chinese-inspired rendition of the Sermon on the Mount, which is when Christ reveals to us the eight blessings, or as we Christians call it, the Beatitudes. Now, there's something to that, right? There are eight Beatitudes, and eight is a very auspicious number in the Chinese culture. So, as a Christian, I really believe that this commonality is beyond just coincidence. And thus, although not exactly, can be compared to Yunfan, which is the common Chinese philosophical perception that there is a force of destiny that determines one's relationships. It is true, this painting does not have anything to do with human relationships in that context. But the reason why I'm relating this coming out to Yunfan is because Yunfan has an underlying meaning of how the force of fate is very much alive. And this appeals to me. Thus, I made the piece have an order to it that denotes that such a commonality relating to number eight is more than just coincidence. I mean, if you look in the foreground of the painting, there are eight figures in the audience that represents the eight Beatitudes, right? Thus, through that, I'm conveying a deeper meaning that Christ's message has been meant to be shared among all, and thus is universal. So the Beatitudes is really universal message of hope that paradise can be accessible to all. They compose of blessings to the poor in spirit, those who mourn, those who are meek, those who hunger and thirst, those who are merciful, those who are pure, those who are peacemakers, and those who are persecuted. So this message really transcends all earthly experiences, divisions, and even time. The Christian message is really for all people. So it really transcends culture. So thus, I can really show the Beatitudes any culture I want, right? So I portrayed this painting of the Beatitudes, or more specifically, the Sermon on the Mount, in a way that's more very Chinese influenced. And because that's what I know and relate to. I was immersed in the Chinese culture. I grew up with it, right? And if you look in the background, the darkness drowns out the earth below. So the focus is turned upwards toward heaven, where there's a fullness of life and timelessness. And this hope of heaven is a source of enlightenment and hope to all souls below. What inspired me or motivated me to share this piece with you is that I've been raised with the Cantonese culture and language from my mother. So my Cantonese culture has always been something I was very much immersed in and very proud of. I also have been raised Catholic. And with this piece, I sought to find the intersection between my Cantonese and Catholic identities. Being Cantonese and Christian are really complementary parts of me that make me who I am. I'm Cantonese by race and culture, and I'm also Christian. Being Christian is also who I am, and it connects me on a deeper level to my fellow Chinese, of course, and to everyone else, to my fellow human beings. Regardless of what race or culture we belong to, we all face bigger questions far greater than what defines us here on earth, right? So my faith, my Christian faith, really guides me to live my life as a Chinese in a very righteous way. Besides producing classical fine art, I also enjoy creating digital illustrations in my leisure time. I'm currently working on a Chinese American graphic novel inspired by both Chinese mythology and Dante Alighieri's Inferno. So, if you ever see a graphic novel that's out called Tony Pan, please give it a read. And this is just one of a few exciting projects I have in progress. And to stay updated with my work and my journey as an artist, please visit my website at michaelornido.com or follow me on Instagram at mornido_art. I have one-of-a-kind art pieces and prints for sale, and I also welcome private commissions. We are all artists in our own ways. May we continue to share in our Cantonese pride in all that we create. Thank you again to Canto Cutie for publishing my art. I hope my art speaks to you. 多謝大家。